host of the Smasher Show on Horizon Radio, 104.3 FM, and we are live here in Chicago, Illinois, for the ioT event. Been walking around and I see there's so many vendors here, so many Microsoft partners here. Have various products on display. And yes, the keynote is about to begin. That's going to be starting right about this moment. But I'm going to take you around right now so you can see what is happening here at the ioT event here in Chicago, Illinois. Hold on 1 second. One moment. Just making sure we are live on Facebook. So yeah, ioT event, and this is the difference. It's interesting. Sierra Wireless. Okay. I'm doing good. My name is Idris, host of the Smasher Show on Horizon Radio 104.3 FM.
Awesome. I'm Frank White. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. Nice to meet you too.
You're actually
yes, yeah. And the keynote is about to begin. We will continue this round of the broadcast. Yeah. Later.
Our industry and engaged world is at an incredibly exciting technology inflection point.
We're seeing cloud technology, IoT technology, billions and millions of devices coming online that just keep growing.
This webinar series is going to feature exciting new IoT solutions.
You're going to hear how you can transform your products and the way they are produced.
Taking a broader look at the digital transformation changing the business landscape.
This is a very serious conversation. Can you use analytics to reduce the mortality and the cost of the patients that you're treating? Yes, you really can. We're seeing massive changes at last. We're seeing healthcare companies see how part of the cloud solutions.
Vendors are really focused on features like firewalls, like encryption capabilities. What we see that everything starts to be and culture needs to be changed. So our approach goes beyond features.
Now with our auto reduction solution, you can see tremendous savings in fuel use, vehicle wear and tear. Obviously, when you turn off the engine, we get rid of emissions. Less than what you find out how customers make a difference with this stuff. You, the customers, partners might learn something just by seeing what other people do.
Please welcome Michael Cuss, General Manager, Americas, ioT and Mixed Reality Sales, Microsoft.
Good morning. Welcome to ioT in Action in Chicago. This is where I was born. 15 miles south of here, in a little town called Evergreen Park, Illinois. Now, we went from there up into Pewaukee, and from there into Toronto. And then my parents, who went to Marquette, said, we're going to trade in the snow for the sand, and move to Southern California. I don't know if it was a smart move, but we're still Bears fans, still love the Cubs. I am so glad that we came to Chicago. This is our 4th event this year, out of 33 globally. 3 years ago, we did one event, and we did that in San Jose, California, at about 250 people. And our objective was to share, talk about technology, talk about platforms, partners. Then we had 7 events, and we had 15 events. And as we expand and create opportunities for our partners and our customers, it's really around a continuum, an evolution that is characterized as a collection, a progression of values and elements by small degrees, small changes in a business or small changes in technology. These degrees then become a catalyst for change in IoT is the enabler to change. That's what we'll talk about today. You got it when you walked in, you got a catalog right here. This is a catalog of solutions that have been built on Azure. It's a catalog of solutions that have embedded our technologies and our partners' technologies into solutions that are in market today. There are about 200 plus partners that are represented here, out of a total of 1,500 that we work with. That ecosystem is the driving force for what we do and how we do it. So thank you for participating in IoT in action in Chicago. How many have participated in an IoT event somewhere else? We had a reception last night, and a few partners came up and said, well, we saw you in Santa Clara, we saw you in Toronto. I don't know if that is a good thing or a bad thing, but I appreciate the feedback, and I appreciate the time that you're spending in learning about what we're doing. So let's talk a little bit about digital transformation and what that means in our business. That digital transformation encompasses everything that we do today. Because the indicators for transformation are compelling, and the motivation for transformation is compelling. 2 years ago at Ignite, Satya Nadella talked about tech intensity. How many of you have read a couple of blogs on tech intensity? The importance of tech intensity is it has 3 elements, and it's a formula. And that formula is, number one, how quickly can you adopt new technology? We announce, on average, 5 to 10 new services every month. These are services that are operating system based, Azure based, to help accelerate business transformation. The challenge we see, though, is skill set. Data scientists, those that understand connecting devices to the cloud. So when you combine how quickly can you adopt technology with the skill sets that are needed, that's what supports the transformations that we see in the industry today. But then the upper limit and the variable on exponential transformation is really trust. And building a foundation of trust that we can go to market together with. And it's that combination and that formula that Microsoft fundamentally believes will differentiate our partner solutions built on Azure. Our partner solutions that are integrated in the ecosystem and the expansion of that ecosystem. So what are some of the indicators that we see in digital transformation? 70% today are following this tech intensity. And the leading engagements that we see around IoT. But smart cities has changed our trajectory. Connecting lights, preventative or traffic flow, and preventing accidents, highlighting anomalies, and being able to react quickly through a connected ecosystem and environment. And then across that, and you'll hear right after my talk from Stephen Welsh at Mariner around machine learning and AI. AI is the new runtime environment. And we project within the next 4 years, all applications will have embedded AI in the runtime environment. Mixed reality, virtual reality, and how we bring together the virtual and the physical worlds into use cases for remote monitoring, automation, and productivity enhancements. Here's an interesting couple of data points for us to think about. Going from left to right, the first is the number of devices just this year that are going to be connected. That's 1 million new devices coming online every hour. It's 8 billion you're going to use. To the far right is a realization that not everyone is going to put information and processing in the cloud. There's going to be the edge capability and edge components. We'll talk a little bit about that today. And you'll see in here solutions that optimize for processing on the edge and leverage, especially with 5G, connections into the cloud. But the middle part, the average age of an S&P corporation this year is 12 years. In 1960, it was 60 years. But by 2027, 75% of the S&P will be replaced. That transformation is really foundational to this question. And that is, how can any entity profit from their data and their cloud platform? And this is the number one question that we get asked, is or how, where, and when I start a project, what's my return on investment? How am I going to differentiate and make money as I move from transactions into recurring revenue or subscriptions? Microsoft has gone through this transformational journey for the past 10 years. And in IoT specifically, what we've identified is this blueprint to profitability. And this captures, based on data from McKinsey and IDC, how we view the platform approach to IoT. Starts with connecting devices to the cloud. On the far right, IoT devices sensorizing endpoints, and then deciding how much information I want to process out of those endpoints, and ingesting that through IoT Hub. But then the middle part of this really becomes a platform as a service or infrastructure as a service. And then the far left is services and integration, how I integrate with business applications. So when you look across these three areas and the opportunity for this year of $60 billion, we cross this spectrum of capabilities with our solutions. And the way we do that is by understanding the digital journey and the digital maturity of our customers. Over 1,500 conversations that we've had in the last 12 to 18 months have aligned with this transformational pattern. And these patterns really start with the identification of I have to build my digital capabilities. This is the most challenging aspect in this continuum, because I have to decide what am I going to modernize? How am I going to increase my application, or how am I going to change my applications and infrastructure? I'm going to need to have some level of connectivity with a device or a product. And once I decide that, then I move into what's that solution, that horizontal or vertical solution that allows me to change my business model, that allows me to transform my business. The far right, which is the most advanced from a digital business standpoint, is moving from, like we did at Microsoft, selling a box and a license once every 5 years, to a monthly subscription for products like Office 365. So we understand and have participated in many conversations around this digital maturity. One example that I'd like to share is with a partner that's here, Dover Fueling Solutions. I have a big car because I have a few kids. And so it's a 7-seater, and it takes me about 30 minutes to fill it up. 40 gallons. The experience that I have when I go to the Country Corner Food Mart is very different. And that experience when I'm there for 20 to 30 minutes is an interaction, a customer experience with a fuel pump. And that experience and that interaction with a fuel pump, while I'm idling, is really to present and engage with me as an individual. The concept of a digital customer experience through an age-old or legacy fuel pump is digital transformation, is business transformation. More importantly, as this video display and presentation of content and services are provided. More importantly, it can tell me where and how I should service my car. it knows that I've been there before, so it gives me an incentive, or it provides me with an incentive to go purchase in the store. It's a retail solution from a fuel pump. But to get there, go back to the digital maturity, there's really three aspects for this solution. The first is I have to decide on what that endpoint is going to look like. What is that product going to be? How is that product going to engage with me for 20 minutes? How is it going to help the convenience store operator? The percentage of failures that are identified, meaning I can't fill up my truck because the fuel pump is broken, 70+% are identified by consumers going in and saying that pump is working. And then the convenience store operator goes and puts a little yellow cap on top, so the next person doesn't say the fuel pump is working. There is a predictive capability that exists once I connect it through their platform called iSense. And that platform, that edge capability does the predictive monitoring so that I can be responsive and prescriptive in how I want to fix that so that I don't lose a week of revenue. So the customer experience, just by simply attaching a fuel pump, changes. And then on the far right, in the integration or the implementation in working through our partner ecosystem is identified here with companies like Happiest Minds, eInfoChips, and Aero Company, and AZW. On average, in the IoT engagements that we see today, it's 18 to 24 partners. It's a very complex ecosystem, but when brought together to build and deliver solutions, changes the outcome. How do we get there, though? So the question that we often get asked is, okay, I understand the motivations, I understand the reasons, but what is the plan for how I achieve that? So we have coalesced this into a view that says on edge and device support, we have features and products like Azure Sphere, Azure ioT Edge. We continue to innovate on the edge so that I can architect solutions that optimize in both environments, whether it's a pump, or it's a cash register, or it's a car, or it's an autonomous vehicle. The middle part, those services, that infrastructure and platform as a service that I talked about, is really how can I provide solutions like ioT Hub to process information, to provision and manage devices seamlessly. A plug and play. And then to the far right are software as a service through products like IoT Central and accelerators that we provide through GitHub. Aligning and having a platform view like this then positions us to show how does it get architected. And we'll spend time later in a session called an architectural design, because understanding the components that are, for this case, Dover's and their capabilities and technology, coupled with what we're building within Azure as well as on the edge, and then the partner component. How do I connect those pumps? How do I process that information? So these solutions then get architected to scale. Because the next question is going to be, how expensive is that going to be month over month? And can I manage it, and can I support it properly? So we've created a platform and provided services that allow you, our partners and customers, to build on top of that. We enable business and digital transformations. So what are the success factors in IoT? And there's four. The four P's: it's partnership, it's product, it's people, and it's process. How does that all come together? The ecosystem and the complexity of that starts, as we saw over, someone needs to build the device, the hardware component of that. I have to be able to connect it, the connectivity aspect of it. I need a system integrator to help me implement it and support it. I need to understand what's on the edge through silicon and the partnerships that we do there, that we have there. So looking at the complexity of the ecosystem then drives the next conversation, which is who's making the decision? Is it IT and how I want to manage it, how I want to support it? Or is it the line of business in the case of Dover on the retail side or on the service side? But fundamentally, the question that we have to answer ourselves as owners is, do I want to build it myself and maintain it? Do I want to buy it through acquisition? Or ultimately, do I want to partner with somebody? So the build, buy, partner conversation is why we are all here. And you will see through the 20 partners or 19 partners that we're showcasing and the hundreds that are in the catalog, the decision was I'm going to partner. But I'm going to build my IP on top of a platform that I know is secure and can scale, and I can manage it cost effectively. Having the opportunity to understand where I can integrate to go to market faster is what we are talking about under the foundation and the umbrella of tech intensity. How quickly can I adopt this technology? Do I have the skill sets? And if I don't, where can I acquire those skill sets? And then how quickly can I get that into market? And is it going to be secure? Can I trust my data being in a cloud? Can I trust my data to be processed? So bringing all of this together, we then think about and look at how do I partner and what does that look like in terms of partnerships? As I mentioned earlier, the number of new services that are announced and released every month, coupled with the solutions that we refer to as co-sell. And Michelle, at the end of the day, will actually walk through what that means when we put a solution into a catalog so that the Microsoft team and our partner community can say, oh, that's a solution that I can integrate to that. It's already been tested. It's already been certified. And then the last piece, or the ecosystem piece, is the most compelling for me because 3 years ago, that number represented less than 500. So in 3 years, we've gone from an ecosystem of 500, which were primarily system integrators and aggregators, into a broad ecosystem of solutions like we see here today. So partnerships, and if you have an opportunity to go talk to our partners at Avnet, that partnership really is how am I committed to help them throughout this journey. These innovators that are looking for not just what is Microsoft, but how can our partner community help them get products to market and solutions built faster. So partnership becomes a big part of the conversation. One of the largest gold and copper mining companies in the world, Newcrest, looks at it in terms of product, similar to the fuel pump, the Anthem fuel pump with building fueling solutions. How can I connect equipment? How can I connect what I'm building to be more predictive, to be more analytical? And then how can I process more of that information on the edge? And Mariner, when Stephen comes up, is going to talk about that machine learning that is used for visual inspection. So that through that visual inspection process and video analytics and AI, I can increase quality and output and reduce slippage. The other important part is really the integration and simplicity in which we bring a lot of these technologies together. And we do that within a platform that I showed you and shared with you earlier. But this is the most challenging, and that is the process. And the process has to go hand in hand with people and products. And what I mean by process is I can build a solution, I can connect that product, but then how am I going to sell it? How am I going to price it? What's the cost going to be? And in looking at process, there's an aspect here of collaboration. We call this a digital feedback loop. Every aspect of the business is processing information and creating data that needs to be analyzed by operations, by sales, in the supply chain, in manufacturing and development. So creating a process that then is built upon this feedback loop drives conversations that are the most challenging. And that conversation is, what am I going to build, my decision framework? How am I going to connect it? Then how am I going to incent my team to go out and present and sell these solutions or price these offerings and services? And then do I have the capability to do multi-tenant billing and then finally revenue recognition? Every part of the ecosystem today has a contribution margin expectation that we're going to make money in this journey. And that's the key to being able to drive business transformation, is that I'm going to have the opportunity to participate in billions of connected devices. But if I can't make money, and if I don't understand how I'm going to process or how I'm going to generate and recognize revenue and incentivize the team, then these projects fail. These implementations fail. So bringing this back to where we start in all of our conversations, it's about people. PCL, one of the largest contractors and construction companies in Canada and globally, started with a vision 5 years ago that was a CEO-driven initiative. And that was that every single leader was on the same page. This is the challenge. And you'll hear from many companies here today that have IT on board, but they don't have the sales teams on board. Or they have development on board, but they don't have operations. And the supply chain and inefficiencies crater innovation and craters these projects. So that cultural shift, and we see it today at Microsoft for sure, and it's from Satya on down, is how do we empower every person and organization on the planet to achieve more. It's not how can I get you to embed Windows, or how can I get you to, or how can I incent you to put more information in the cloud. So let me bring this to a sustained value view. And what we've done over the last 5 years is look at a composite of companies that we've worked with. And that composite of companies that we've worked with are represented here in their stock price. And the impact of decisions that were made and a vision that was created for a strategic direction of transformation led to changes on the edge in development of products and the analytics that support that, like Go. But here's where the valley of death kicks in. Because can you afford to have months or even a year of impact to bottom line, or declining revenue, or impact to profitability? And that's where a gut check occurs, because I have to decide, is this a long-term commitment or is this a short-term experiment? But once through that transition and an identification of process and new revenue models, we then get into partnerships at scale. And the examples that we have here today, and you talk to companies like Honeywell, you talk to companies like Iconics, you talk to our partners of their digital transformation and how they've achieved and been successful working through this valley of death. But it's when you get to that point that we believe that there's accelerators that we can support of technology people and resources to help manage through that. Because digital transformations are not overnight. The ioT opportunities continue to expand, and we believe through this mindset of growth and embracing technology under tech intensity will support our mission. And our mission is to empower every person and every organization on the planet to achieve more. We talk about this every day. And as we share and collaborate together for the next few hours, I'd love to hear more about how we can partner with you. So with that, I want to thank you for participating in ioT in Action in Chicago. And at this time, I'd like to bring up Stephen Welch, Vice President of Data Science, Marin.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for having us today. So again, my name is Stephen Welch, VP of Data Science at Marin. Let's go ahead and hop into it here. So today we're going to share a case study using ioT and deep learning to improve quality inspection and manufacturing. So here's some real data. I like to show a little real data at the beginning to get everyone kind of on the same page here. And I'm assuming that most of you in the audience are probably not quality average quality experts, and that's okay. But it's helpful just to have a look here and see, because this really it gets us to think and think about the problems we're asking our algorithms to solve and asking our humans to solve. So here's some real data. And my question to you is, if you woke up tomorrow and had to, you were in charge of quality inspection, which of these would you ship to a customer, right? So here's 4 images of real fabric from a real customer. This is from a big roll of fabric. And these are images that are pretty zoomed in. They're about 2 by 2 square meter. And look carefully here and see what you think. Which of these do you think shows defects? So while you're thinking, I'll give you just a little more background on me. VP of Data Science at Marion. I'm also an adjunct professor at the University of North Carolina, specializing in computer vision. Before this, I worked in autonomous driving and been with Marion for about a year, and it's been really interesting to see how deep learning can apply to these kinds of problems. So I'll hold the answer just for one more minute, because I want to tell you a little bit about the system that this came from. So this is the system one of our customers has. This is, oops, sorry about that. There we go. This is the system today that they have installed. And this system is very typical in manufacturing. So machine vision has been around for about 40 years now in manufacturing. This is a typical system. It has really excellent hardware. So this is a big machine, it's a big capital investment. It has 8 cameras inside it, it's about 10 feet tall, 12 feet wide. The fabric flies through this machine at about 85 yards a minute. So you have fabric flying through. And whenever this machine thinks that it sees a defect, it snaps a picture, right? And those are the pictures that it shows. There's some more examples of pictures here in the center. And sometimes the machine gets it right? But sometimes, kind of surprisingly large of the time, it doesn't get it right. And what happens a lot is you have this problem called false positives or false rejects. So there's images where there's actually no defect there, but the system believes that there is. We'll get into why this happens. But for this manufacturer, the rate was around 40%. This really matters because the output of this system, this vision system, is a map like this down here, right? This is called a defect map down the bottom. And this represents one roll of fabric. So the width of the roll is about 10 feet perfect, and the length is about half a mile. So it's about a half-mile roll of fabric. And every point on that map is where the current system believes there to be a defect. And later in production, this map is actually used to cut out fabric, right? That's your good fabric. So if this map is wrong, that's a huge amount of waste, right? A huge inefficiency. And in practice, this blew my mind when I first learned it. This system was about 40% wrong. So 40% of those are not actually defects. Let's talk about how this happens a little bit and how traditional machine vision works, because it'll kind of set the stage for why we need ioT in these deployments and why we need something like deep learning. So this is a quick summary of how computer vision has worked really since its inception in the 70s. So machine vision has been in manufacturing really since the 80s, 30 or 40 years. This is how most systems work. So there's some kind of image capture component. You can have a camera, a line scan, and that's fed into some kind of computer, some kind of computer component. But the heart of this is my area of specialty, which is a computer vision algorithm. And traditionally, computer vision has worked using this two-step process. So the purpose of this algorithm is to take the raw data, the raw pixel RGB values, and make a decision, right? Is this effective? Is it not? Traditionally, this is done in 2 steps. The first step is called feature extraction. And the idea there is what mathematical operation can I do to that raw pixel value to compute some metrics or numbers that can help me decide if I have a true defect or not. So here I'm showing you an actual real feature, that's the contrast. So I've taken a little, we're looking at different regions of the image, and the regions that have a high contrast, which is the difference between the darkest and the brightest pixel, those are glowing. So we've measured the contrast, right? And contrast could be predictive of a defect. The image has a high contrast, maybe there's a defect there, right? As you can imagine, just measuring contrast is probably not enough. So in practice, manufacturers will measure other things. Like for example, you measure the defect size. All of those features, and then moving to the second decisioning step, this is going to matter a lot in a minute as we tie it all together. But you can think of this step as basically a system of rules, right? So the idea is, based on the values of these features, if I have the contrast is bigger than this and the defect size is bigger than that, I'll make a decision and say, okay, its overall part must be that. So that's how traditional machine vision works today and for the last 30 or 40 years. So keeping that in mind, let's go back to our problem just one last time. So you've had a chance to think about it. Let's take a quick poll just for fun. So let's say this is your job tomorrow. Who says that number 1 has a defect? Do not ship number 1. I don't think I got it. Maybe one person. Good, okay, great. Who says number 2? Don't ship number 2. That is defective. Okay, maybe 30, 40%. Okay. Who says don't ship 3? Don't ship 3. That's definitely defective. Garbage, throw it out. Okay, good. And who says don't ship 4? Good, okay, all right, good. Okay, so here are the answers. All right, now, to a trained expert at this company in fabric, they can see there's no problem. Let me talk you through it. So the first one is good, that's fine, we should ship that. The second one, this is a stain, so some kind of oil is happening in fabric, we should not ship that. This one is a tricky one, so this is called flock. So a piece of material that can be brushed away, landed on the fabric. That's one of the biggest reasons that these systems struggle. So it looks like it needs better, right? And based on what I just told you about how traditional machine vision works, right? If you were using that two-step approach where you measure stuff like contrast, the contrast of these is like identical, right? You got a dark region and a light region, the size is about the same. So using traditional machine vision, it's very, very difficult to solve this problem, right? So that's where deep learning really comes in. So let's talk about what we're doing. So at Mariner, IvY developed a product called Spyglass Digital Inspection. And we are replacing this two-step process with a single unified deep learning model. As I mentioned, this two-step process can be very difficult to deploy. It works great for some solutions, but generally it can struggle. And part of the problem is that in order to try to make these systems work better, we end up with hundreds of features. So you have hundreds of parameters that quality engineers have to tune. And it can be very difficult to make that work. The switch we're making here, the change here, by going to a single unified deep learning model, the big thing to be aware of here is that we're changing from a system that was engineered and designed by engineers once and deployed to a system that's really built on data. So a deep learning model is going to learn from data, so we're really putting data at the center of our process, and that means that ioT is just great. So we'll get into that in a minute in some more detail. But by doing this, by going to deep learning, there are some trade-offs. But first, I want to make a case for why should we do this? Why should we take a different approach than what's been taken for 30 years in industry? Why should we change? So it really goes back to why deep learning is a hot topic right now. There's definitely some hype around it, but there is some very real powerful results behind it. So let me share a little bit about deep learning in general briefly. So this is performance on an open source data set called ImageNet. ImageNet is probably the hardest, or one of the hardest data sets in computer vision. It's 1 million images, and they're all labeled. So every image has, in the competition data set, one label. So cat, dog, house. There's 1,000 different possible labels, 1,000 different classes. And the job here, your mission in the future of this competition, is to create an algorithm that, given an image, predicts the correct label, classifies the image correctly. Back in 2011, so not that long ago, the very best algorithm on the planet, if you gave it 5 guesses, would get the answer wrong 26% of the time. So certainly something that you could not deploy in manufacturing. The next year, something exciting happened. So this group at the University of Toronto, led by Jeff Hinton, they published a paper called AlexNet, and they improved performance by about 40%. And the change that they made is the same change we've been talking about. So they went from a two-step feature extraction to decisioning process to a unified deep learning model. By doing that, they got a huge performance boost. And in the following years, really exciting stuff happened. So using the same technology, researchers were able to drive performance to, in 2015, better than human-level performance on this data set. This is in a paper called ResNet in 2015 by researchers at Microsoft. ResNet is the same architecture that we're using as part of our product, and we'll show you now how that shakes out in this real data set. But that's really the reason to use deep learning. You can get dramatically better performance than previous approaches. So I mentioned that there's some very real trade-offs that you make when you switch to a deep learning-based approach. So you get better performance, usually, but there are other things that you have to take into consideration. The first is that your data really matters because your model is trained from data, right? And not just any data, labeled data. So you need good quality labels. So when we start these engagements, we always start by labeling the data set with our customer. And this customer, we started by labeling examples of flock and faults. Remember, flock was that piece of material on the fabric that's not actually a defect, so we labeled a number of examples of those. We tried to start with around 50 examples of each class. We added defects. So they were interested in 6 or 7 classes of defects, things like holes in the fabric, in and out, that's where the yarn comes out of the fabric. And this always happens. In the labeling process, we always find stuff that the customer hadn't thought of before. So I think that just generally, the labeling process itself is valuable because it forces your quality team to agree on what's defective and what's not. And this almost always happens. And deploying on a framework like Azure ioT Edge allows us to quickly make changes like this. If there's a new class tomorrow, no problem, we can retrain and deploy in a day or two. And that's something you just couldn't do without this kind of infrastructure. Okay, so we trained ResNet. Here's the results. The best way I find to communicate these results is in a confusion matrix. There's a lot going on. Bear with me just for 1 second. I'll explain exactly what this means. This is how our model did. So the rows of our table here, the rows, represent the labels from our human labelers, from our customers, the experts. And the columns represent the predictions of our model. So for example, that 108 right here, that's in the row that corresponds to false. So that means that all 108 images there were labeled false by the experts. And the column that's on corresponds to false as well. So that means that our model predicted false. So those 108 examples are correct, right? We got those right. Okay, cool. So you can imagine that a perfect result would be everything along the diagonal. And deep learning is not perfect. So everything off diagonal, like the ones that are here, those are actually here. Those are incorrect. And we'll go over those with the customer and see what the impact is. But overall, we get the overall numbers here. So this model, our initial model for this customer, had a 97.7% accuracy, which is fine. But it's important to tie that to the business impact. So the first thing we wanted to do was measure how much do we reduce that false positive rate, right? How much are we reducing those non-defects that we're getting into our maps? The way the customer measures these, their internal business metric, is false positives for 100 yards of fabric. And they were at around 17, something like that. Our system dropped that to 0.47. So that's a 30-fold improvement. So it's not 30% better, it's 30 times better, right? This is where deep learning gets really exciting. You can drive, changes that are really a step function. This is not just a small continuous improvement. This is a huge leap. So we were able to reduce false positives by 30-fold. And then we also wanted to compare this to their other reference, which is human inspection. So they also use human inspection. And comparing to those numbers, we were around 2 to 5 times better. And you might be asking yourself, hey, Stephen, how are you able to beat humans if your data came from labels that were made by humans, right? So it's kind of circular. The way it works and the way we kind of think about it is these deep learning models, they learn from labels that were created by your experts on their best day. So take your experts, they have enough time to label, you can discuss things. But when a human is grading fabric in line and watching it fly by, it's very hard to keep that quality up. It's really not a job that's well suited to you. So that's how, in practice, we're able to deliver superhuman performance for visual inspection. Okay, and tying it all together here, this is the defect map before we processed it. So all the points up here that aren't down here are actually false regions. You can imagine that this really dramatically reduces your efficiency, right? So you're wasting a lot of fabric if you're heading around all these points up here. So this technology really can drive a huge delta. Okay, so that's all great. I've kind of shown you the algorithm, like why do we want to use deep learning, what kind of results do we get. But to be honest, in deep learning, the tools are getting better and better and better, and really the top students in my class can do the exact analysis that I just showed you. That we don't believe is the really hard part. We think the difficult part here, and the part we spend a lot of time on, is actually the deployment and the maintenance. How do you get this stuff into the world, right? And that's where the ioT piece really comes into play. So this is a specific version of the, actually, so Michael showed this for Dover. This is our version for Spycon. And this shows how our solution is integrated to app and dash. And for our application, you really do need an ioT Edge solution. The reason for that is that there's one more deep learning trade-off I didn't tell you about yet. So I mentioned that we need, we need label data. That's one thing that we need in deep learning. But we also need more powerful compute. So these models require accelerated compute through GPUs. And we cannot do this in the cloud. The reason is that we have to get decisions back to the production line, sometimes in seconds, right? So we can't have the cloud dependency for real-time decisions. That said, since the data is always changing, you need to be able to retrain and deploy quickly, and you also need the cloud for reporting. So we use the cloud for things that it's really good at, which are those components. But we deploy it on premise on GPU machines. And using Azure ioT Edge to do that, and this diagram shows all the components from Azure that we use. All the black components are Azure components. All the yellow are Spyglass components, our system. And then the purple is the customer hardware that we're interfacing with. So putting all those pieces together, we think is really integral here, right? So without a stack like Azure ioT Edge underneath us, we couldn't get these results into the real world, right? So we think it's a really great use case. And then finally, I'll just highlight one more Microsoft product that we're using on top of this, and this really helps us zoom out and think about the impacts of these systems more broadly. So these are our Power BI dashboards for this customer. So since we're building up the ioT Edge, it's pretty easy to reduce to line. But these get really interesting, and I'll just share a little story about how these things kind of shake out usually. So with most of our customers, not most, but a majority, when they first come to us, they're kind of looking for like a better mousetrap, right? Can you give us a better vision system? Can you reduce my false positives? That's fine, you say no problem. But as soon as they see kind of the level of performance we can get, and we can accurately tease apart like flock and falls and all these different categories, they realize, oh man, I need to integrate this with the rest of my system, like ERP, for example. Because as soon as I see a high, occurrence of a certain kind of defect, I want to tie that back to production and fix that root cause as quickly as possible, right? So what we've done in Power BI here is we've integrated with their ERP system. So when a role is processed, we ground it into the ERP and we know exactly where that role came from, what machine was it made on, what truck did it come off of, all that stuff. And that's tremendously valuable because they can go, like before the system, it took weeks to find these quality issues. Now within 10 minutes, they can know exactly what machine it came from. So we think deep learning is kind of a great tool on the ground to give good results. When you tie it into the overall system, as we have here on our magic, we think that's really where you can start driving some big value. And then finally, I'll tie it together here. If you're thinking about deploying new technology like deep learning or other AI technology, this has been helpful for us to see kind of where the business value is. All of this has to start with business value, and this is kind of how what we've seen in the market. We initially thought that the big value add here was going to be improving output quality, which is certainly a great goal, and we've achieved that. That's fantastic. But there are many other benefits that come along by having this rapid, reliable, and accurate quality inspection in your model. We talked about root cause analysis. That's another benefit that comes along with it. Another one is increased line speed. So we never thought about this until we were talking to customers about it. So a number of our customers have actually slowed down their lines to compensate for their existing vision systems. So we had a customer that makes discrete parts, and they have a washing stack followed by a vision system. And water droplets would get on the part, and you can imagine to traditional machine vision systems, telling apart a water droplet from a defect might be kind of difficult, right? It's more of a task for deep learning. So their solution was to slow down their line by 20 to 30%. And add a big blower to blow up the water, right?
Exactly.
But that costs real money, right? So by switching to deep learning, they can see that the production speed back up to where it was or even higher. And an increase, in speed of 20%. If you have 5 lines, that's like having 6 lines. That's a huge business impact. So when you're evaluating deep learning and seeing how it fits into the landscape, I'd say don't just think about the direct output of the model. Think about how it fits into the broader business. Because there's a lot to be found. Okay, so that's perfect timing. Yeah, 2 seconds. Great. Okay, cool. So I'll wrap up quickly here. This is just a little bit about Marin. We also have a range of product services. Please come talk to us in our booth. We're in the back here. We'd love to hear about your applications and then discuss further. And I'll go ahead and stop there because I am out of time. And thank you for your time today. I really appreciate it.
One of the things that we've had to learn as systems is to be more succinct and higher level in our early discussions with customers to talk about outcomes of IoT and how they have transformative effects.
When we go to engage with customers, we tend to push the down button on the elevator. And we engage with engineers, the operators, the managers. But now, as part of this digital transformation, when we go and engage investors, we push it up from an elevator to engage the C-suite.
That might come as a surprise right now when I say people don't focus on technology. Don't focus on using these amazing technologies to improve your current business model. Challenge yourself. Think about new business models. Probably think about new customers out there that currently you don't address. So how would these new technologies enable you to address new customers, to address new markets, to develop new value propositions?
Basically, we have to learn as a whole company to welcome failure and setbacks as long as we derive learnings very fast from that. So we could pivot our course and correct it and fulfill the mission.
Look at how the business can benefit from having razor and rails like this going over your operations. Then look at how you might be able to start automating, optimizing if you had access to that. Then you can get that small, meaningful use case and just get going.
Please welcome Brian Von Exelson, better known as IvY, Principal Solution Specialist at Microsoft.
Good morning. So I have been asked if we have many folks in the back. They're standing. And I thought about some of my jokes from the past, but I see a very fragmented audience. So if we can deep fry it a little bit, if there's a couple spaces, we can squeeze in, deep fry. I know deep fry the hard drive, right? Deep frying the chairs. And those of you that are standing, if you'd like to join into a chair, that would be great. I do see some up front, and hopefully we can get a couple of people in the back that are standing at the seat. All right. So as you kind of heard, this is a conversation about business transformation. And we are in our third year of our journey of the $5 billion investment from Microsoft into developing our IoT ecosystem. And as part of this third year, we started to look and ask for feedback from partners and customers like yourself. What would you like to hear about? In the first year, we talked about repeatable solutions. And then in our second year, we started to look at how do we build our IoT value chain. And this year, we want to focus on how can we drive more value at a faster pace. So as we think about the conversation today, we really want to look at some of the things that Michael and Stephen teed up from a transformation, but we want to look at it from a business perspective and use technology as the enabler. And if you think about implementing IoT, fundamentally, that is transformative. And I love that video that they just played because that was coming up. Because I want to challenge you in the audience to think about what is your customer experience. I want to challenge you to think about what is your competition doing. Because as we look at this transformation to our business, it opens up the new business model. And we're going to have some examples from our partners. We're also going to look at what we consider our best practices and how Microsoft and our team, when we think about the worldwide IoT and many of the folks that are here supporting the event today, can engage with you as a partner to develop these solutions. So here is what we've identified as the 4 steps of transformation. And we've got a couple examples I'm going to walk through. Now, you heard a little bit from Cups on the fueling pump. It's actually called a fuel dispenser in the industry. The pump's actually in the ground. That's something that I learned as I passed an engagement with Dover. But we all think of the fueling pump, right? Well, as Cups kind of mentioned, about 70 to 75% of failures are reported by the consumer. Now, I've done both. I'll admit that there has been a time or two where I got frustrated. I pulled up to the pump. There was an issue. I looked around. It wasn't convenient. Across the street, similar price. Just went over there. And another one just recently where I was traveling. I was on my way back to the airport. The convenience store was there as I was filling up, getting ready to return the rental car. And I couldn't get my credit card to go in that machine. I was like, what's going on? This is like crazy. So I went in and I actually talked to the attendant to let them know. I also moved and filled up the rental car and got away and returned it at the airport. But as we think about this, how simple is it to look at putting a sensor into these devices to understand what is happening from that fueling pump? Now, another area that I was exposed to as I worked in the convenience store industry was the sticks. Who remembers the giant stick they would stick in the ground? Anybody remember that giant stick they used to measure the actual fuel?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. It's like, several feet high. And, every shift manager in the shift has to go and put the stick in the tank to take tank readings. Again, as we look at putting sensors and the ability to read the level of fuels, they've eliminated that process. But really starting to gain these insights and starting to attach sensors and look at what can we do to garner that information. And that moves into the second stage. The second stage is we start to look at operational efficiencies. Now we're connecting these devices, we're getting this data. What are we doing to gain insights? What are we doing to actually analyze the data? We have several technologies we're here today as we look at this proliferation of not only devices, but the proliferation of data. And how do we manage the data? How do we store the data? How do we gain insights into the information? Now, Emerson is involved in several different industries. This is part of their automated solutions group. And Emerson, those of you that are familiar with The Simpsons, I will admit I'm not necessarily a big fan of The Simpsons, but this is a great analogy. Those of you that have ever watched The Simpsons, you see Homer in that control room. And he has all these screens and all these buttons and different things in that nuclear power plant. That's what Emerson is providing to power plants, to oil and gas, to semiconductor providers, to pulp and paper, to pharmaceutical. And it's all about flow and control. And sometimes it's dangerous liquids. We often talk with Emerson, and it's about dirty and dangerous scenarios. And the risk of life is real. And these systems help bring safety, but they also help control the environment. And so, as they were looking at some of these operational efficiencies and putting the sensors on the valves and being able to read the flows, they have 30, 40 years of analytics of what it should look like for these valves. Some of these valves are $250,000. So they had a customer, and that customer had a remanufactured valve. It was just remanned, getting put back into the system, but the data was showing an anomaly. The data was not showing what that valve should be. They were using the analytics, they were using the sensor, and they were interpreting the data. And their connected services called the customer and said, we're seeing anomalies. The customer's like, first of all, really frustrated because they just had this remanufactured valve. They're putting it back into the system. The system has to be down. So they're putting it back in, they're getting ready to bring it online, and now they're being told we've got anomalies. There was a little bit of resistance, but they relied on the data. They trusted the data. They decided, and thankfully they did, to remove the valve from production. When they tore the valve down to see what was going on, they actually found, if you look there in that yellow circle, a bolt during the remanufacturing process had extruded through and came into an area of the valve. That bolt was causing anomalies. But that information was realized before a dangerous situation could occur. As we think about new business models, Vigilon, who is an industry leader in security and surveillance video, traditionally on-premise business, extensive use of analytics. And as they were going through some of this transformation, they recognized a gap in the market. And that gap was targeted to what we call SMB companies that don't necessarily have on-site IT, as well as the ability to self-manage. And so the new business model that Vigilon came up with was video security as a service. Think about that. What are you doing? We've heard all the different conversations in the past. Rolls-Royce delivering jet engines as a service. Some of the elevator companies delivering elevators as a service. Right? So here, they look at introducing a completely new business model, right? Challenging the ways of the past of doing on-premise, right? And introduce what is known as the Vigilon Blue. And with the Vigilon Blue, they have the ability for expansion in the market to the SMB companies, to allow the SMB the ability to manage, or introduce additional partners like ioT, service providers that can manage that video security service. As we think about the last one, was features and revenue streams, I want to key in on the experience. All three, Dover, Emerson, and many others, have been delivering this digital transformation to the new features and revenue streams. When we think about Dover, you kind of heard a little bit about cups filling up this car, right? That's a loyalty program. The ability for that fuel pump to recognize you if you've opted in to the loyalty program through various mechanisms. But when you come up to the pump, it's like, hey, BDA, welcome back. Now, my loyalty programs at the fuel stations will know I typically fill up with mid-grades. I've had fuel injector problems. I'm a car guy. I grew up in Indianapolis. So automotive is something that I just always tinkered with. So every now and then I'll run the fuel injector cleaner through. Maybe it knows the last time I purchased that. I'm also a Pepsi aficionado. So don't give me a Coke coupon or entice me to come in and get a Coke. Entice me with my brand loyalty, which is Pepsi. And it's all about this experience that I'm having at the pump. Do you know that they want you to come in the convenience store? They make more revenue in the convenience store, even if I buy a soda out of the fountain. That's more revenue that typically they will generate from a profit perspective than me filling up my gas tank. So it changes the experience. As we think about Emerson, in the industry that Emerson is involved in, there is an aging workforce with that industrial knowledge. A lot of people are retiring. We don't see as many people coming into the industry at a junior level to gain that experience and knowledge. So Emerson recognized this and is providing that industry knowledge through their connected services. Again, generating new revenue and offloading and delivering that industry knowledge as a service so that their customers don't have to hire and maintain the industry knowledge. They can buy it as a service. And the Vigilon creating new revenue streams with their video as a service. But as we think about why do we want to do this? And that's what you're going to see is one of the key questions. I got some questions coming up. But why do we want to do this? Regardless of the industry, every organization is trying to do one thing: drive value generation. What does that value generation look like for you? Is that part of the customer experience? Is that part of additional functionality? Are you recognizing gaps that you can monetize? And how do we deliver this? Well, our goal is to find ways to deliver this through the edge to cloud solutions. You've heard a little bit from Stephen as we talked about how Mariner has delivered. One of the key things that he mentioned towards the end of his talk was you have to define the business value first. So if you think about that value generation for your company and these new business models, we're really looking at how does this impact your P&L? What if you're a public traded company? How does this impact some of the reporting? And Microsoft has been going through this transformation. We'll talk about that in just a little bit. But we've developed a process that is known as a business model workshop, where we can have this conversation. We can discuss the journey. Now, many of us read left to right, right? All right, so we see vision and strategy, culture, business model, GTM, technology. Well, unfortunately, what we're seeing is a lot of people think about technology first. That's the how. We can get to the how, we can handle the how. But we also have to look at the why and the what. What is the vision? Why are we doing this? What? How does it impact the business culture? We've seen where companies have had this on-premise culture, easy line of sight to revenue across business models, across how employees are compensated, and it's different. It's transformative as we start to introduce not only IoT, but the cloud conversation. But we really want to look at why are we doing this? Help define that first, then move into what are we going to do? We've seen many that start with technology and how, and they turn into an awesome science experiment. We have several solutions. We're talking hundreds of thousands that have been science experiments, or very successful proof of concepts or POCs. However, the market wasn't clearly defined, and now the solution, while it works and it's awesome, it's sitting on the shelf because the market and how they would go to market with it wasn't properly defined. As you think about Microsoft, we've been on this journey ourselves for a number of years. In fact, we used to do events like this, and we talk about features and functionalities, and click here, click there, and it was all about the launch of the software. We used to have shrink-wrap packages. In fact, this will date me, but I have some Windows 3.0 shrink-wrap boxes. If you need one, you will have to invest in a 3.5-inch floppy drive. But that was the old Microsoft, right? We start to look at, the things that are changing. And one of the biggest things that I like to have a conversation about is our conversation is changing. It's about the solution conversation. It's about the why and the what. And then we get to the how, which is the technology. As you think about the business models, we were very transaction-led. It was perpetual licenses. It wasn't every 3 years we get to upgrade. Now, what's the reality of that? Well, a lot of companies would do every other, right? So it's every 6 years, typically. But now we're getting new features and functionalities. It's an on-demand. It's a different experience. We have the mobile devices. But one of the key things I think that's changed is the relationships with our partners and how we work together, not only to help enable your business as a Microsoft partner, but also your customers and ideally our joint customers. And these disruptions are occurring across all industries. I can think of several examples as I think about different customer experiences. Although I'm a Pepsi guy, there's a really cool Coke machine out there that has everything you do with a digital screen. And it's just a different experience. As you think about some of the digital signage that is happening, even in billboards, right? Instead of just one display, multiple displays. So we're seeing that digital signage in retail now, in coolers, so we can see what's in the cooler. At the ioT Stadium in Dallas, they have this entire system that if they run out of hot dogs, it goes off the menus at all the concession stands. And it's these different technologies and disruptions. My challenge is to look at what is the customer experience? What are we driving to? And then look at the four models. But as you have those conversations, we can decide why we're going to look at making some changes, what or monetization makes sense, and introduce these new business models. So with that, I'd like to invite up Scott Gettinger. Scott is part of our managing account team, and he's going to introduce Dover, and Dover's going to talk about some of the transformation that they have done. Thank you.
Great. I'm really excited about this next presentation because Dover Corporation actually is a holding company, and they have 18 different operating companies. These are discrete taxing companies. And the interesting thing about this is that out of those 18, they can actually pick and choose which one is ready for business transformation. And to go through and look at ioT solutions and how can we apply those and make those businesses really transform themselves. And luckily we have Peter Patnell, the Vice President of Dover Digital, today to talk about those. And Peter and I met a little bit less than 2 years ago. And what I think you can find is Dover has been really active in this space. Not only does Peter get to talk about one solution, or two solutions, or three solutions, or four solutions, you're going to hear about 5 different solutions, really digital transformation to 5 different operating models. So it's a ton of great knowledge, great experience, and I think you're really going to enjoy learning about that in terms of what Peter has to share. Peter Patnell.
Well, good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So, my background is software engineering, but I'll be talking about business transformation, so you go figure. But, you know, like VS said, from business transformation point of view, ioT initiatives, when we talk about ioT, the first thing that comes to everybody's mind is technology. Rightly so, technology is pretty critical for you to do the ioT. But more importantly, what we found during our journey is the business transformation, the business model, and the culture and the people. This becomes pretty key. So today we'll touch upon that, and I'll go through the digital journey, digital transformation journey we have, and we continue to have, and some of the success stories that along the way we kind of break in. So before we go into digital business transformation, how many people know Dover? No cheating. I think there's a lot of Dover fueling solutions, Dover slides up in there in Keynote, BDS, but before that, how many people know about Dover? Well, that's great. That's more than I knew before I joined. So, you know, Dover is a B2B company. So as a result, they're known in the consumer world is less, but we build great products. We got a great leadership and excellent market traction. So I'll start with maybe going a little bit about the Dover itself. So as you see, Dover is a pretty diversified global industrial manufacturing company. We are a conglomerate. You can think of it like a holding company, conglomerate. We have 18 companies underneath, and with $7 billion revenue, and global workforce of 24,000 employees. And the products that we manufacture touches everybody's life on a day-to-day basis without realizing that these are Dover products. So we have 18 companies folded into 5 operating segments. So starting from top right, engineered products. Engineered products, this operating segment essentially manufactures the products, components that goes into vehicle services and environmental solutions. So what are those? If you have your car and you need repair, you go to a repair shop, either or even collision, after post-collision, you want to take it to post-collision repair, the lips, wheel alignment systems, collision repair equipment, we manufacture all of that. Similarly, the environmental solutions, every week we have a trash pickup, and the waste management trucks that comes to pick up the trash, the chassis that goes on them, we manufacture that. And then the fueling solutions, we have a comprehensive portfolio of products, cutting-edge technology. Some of them already shared here. It has to do with the retail fueling industry and adjacent markets. And then in energy identification, here we build the products and consumables as well as software services that goes into the marking and coding. Here, marking and coding is the term that we use. For example, if you look at your egg or milk carton, you have an expiry dates. We manufacture the ink and printers that actually does the job for that. And we also manufacture the digital textile printing equipment as well. In pumps and process solutions, here we manufacture the products that goes into the performance critical applications, essentially to safely transport the fluids across chemical, hygiene, oil and gas, and other markets around. Finally, the refrigeration food equipment. Here, you guys will see, if you go to Costco, Walmart, the another glass stores, the commercial refrigeration, and the heating and cooling markets, beverage industry, related equipment, as well as the food service that you see, where you see variables, pizza making, and hot bags. We can manufacture all these products. So essentially, the reason I went into all of this just to say, Dover as a company manufactures the products that you use on a day-to-day basis, not directly but indirectly. And we say we are a B2B company, we sell it to our customers who touch some of the consumers. So a little bit about Dover Digital. So I'm from Dover Digital. Dover Digital, about 3 years ago, Dover wanted to embark upon a digital transformation journey. So we want to have that driven through a dedicated group from the software and down the underneath all 18 companies. So it's a great opportunity, really, because you get to see with a Hawkeye across the entire portfolio what's going on, where the opportunities are. We were formed about 3 years ago. We are physically located in Watertown, Massachusetts, but we are a global organization, and we have workforce in US and India and a few other locations as well. And our goal is to drive the digital revenue through transformation. And that's the bottom line. We need to measure how the success is in digital revenue at the end of the day. And the digital transformation we want to embark upon is customer intimacy, improving the customer experience, and bringing the Dover in the forefront as a world-class organization and easy to do business with. So, any digital transformation, when you talk to people, you get the focus into ioT, digital marketing, digital sales. Rightfully so, those are the areas to focus, but you don't have it in silo. Essentially, you need people across the board in your organization and see where the efficiencies need to be made, where the touch points need to be integrated. So in our case, we have IT and security. We've got along the journey. IT is a very critical business partner for us. As part of the IoT journey, we touch a lot of back office IT systems. So IT needs to be as part of the journey as well. And the optimization, the cost or efficiencies becomes very critical in order to be successful. And the security goes without saying, Dover is pretty high emphasis on security even before, but security is one of those things you have to continue to improve. It's not that you make one security patch and get done, because a lot of things are going behind the scenes where you need to continue to add. In the digitization world, security is slightly different, because now, for example, if we're talking about IoT, it's no longer securing just an end product that's sitting in a customer environment, but you have cloud security, obviously you worry about more OT security, operational technology piece, and then securely transporting the data all the way to the cloud. So the security is a continuous evolution for us. And finally, actual digitization. So in the digitization world, we went with the approach. Again, this is our journey, so take it for what it's worth. We went with the approach of customer facing. customer facing. So we have the opportunity to do customer facing and internal. We take the customer facing. Customer facing wise, we have a large footprint of products. Right? We've been in the our products are in the market for 60 years. So we have a global footprint of thousands and hundreds of thousands of products throughout the world. We want to improve our operational efficiency for our customers by building the ioT solutions. And then similarly, digital customer experiences, we want to be easy to do business with. If you go to Amazon, you know how easy it is for you to just get a quick experience. So if you go to any of the other online organizations, it's pretty easy to do business with, right? So you want to bring in an experience like that in the B2B world. So, finally, so we don't want to stop at just the ioT of our product and just doing the business into our e-commerce and the content management and some of those areas. We also want to go into the platform approach where look at the opportunities in the adjacent markets, how we can package all this up, and then be able to deliver this as a platform to our customers as a solutions offering. Finally, we are a manufacturing company, so we have a global footprint of various manufacturing plants. So we do want to connect with factory, and we are the journey on that one as well to improve our overall operational efficiency in the manufacturing side as well. So any digital transformation requires some key drivers. I think this aligns with some of Michael's slides before about the people, culture, and platform. I have a slightly different wording, but it's pretty much the same meaning, right? So people, everything starts and ends with people for us, right? So you need to have critical people, key people in the organization with the right culture to make any initiative successful. That was the transformation, digital transformation, but it is very true here as well. In the digital transformation side, the people, when I'll probably categorize into three different buckets. We have digital organization that we formed over digital, where we have a global footprint and as well as with the right skill sets, we have the team. We continue to grow the team. If you guys have any good resumes, please pass them on. And then along with that, we do have importantly, our operating companies, because it's not as you have an organization, this go over this go, and they're going to change the ballgame, right? So it won't happen that way. We got to work really closely with our business units, because ultimately they are the ones holding the P&L, they are the ones that have the end goal suite at the end. How do you bring the digitization as part of their regular portfolio to make a change? So we need to create a culture working closely with them and create a teams, digital champions, are able to train the salespeople, the marketing people to make sure that the digital world comes in collaboration with the typical hardware products that they sell today. So there's a lot of cultural shift, bringing a different kind of change in the mindset as well as bringing a different kind of people into this mix in order to make it successful. And finally, the partnerships. We can't do everything by ourselves, and we need a certain critical skill sets in order to do everything. For example, sensors, user experience. Importantly, Microsoft has been a very key and crucial partner for us. We will see in the next couple of slides the type of help that they need providing to us. We have system integrators such as InfoChips and Happiest Minds that are looking as well. So that's the key plan is to have all the right mix into the organization to be successful. Process by any type of activity requires a structured process, and transformation side is even more important because you can do one initiative and be successful, but we want to raise and repeat. And we have 18 companies, and actually 18 companies is just at a high level umbrella, right? We have multiple brands under each company, and we have a large product portfolio. And so that means a ton of opportunities for us as part of this journey. But that also means we got to do this in a structured fashion. The structured fashion is we have a centralized PMO organization that puts down a top-to-bottom approach in terms of how to do from ideation all the way to the execution and support and maintenance. How do you also be in the business transformation training? So this process is key for us to be on this journey and helping us quite a bit. Finally, the platform, I'll talk a bit about going on the platform approach, but platform is critical for us to be able to go and market quickly. and I'll go into why this is one first. So what is Go IoT platform? This is we didn't want to reinvent the wheel, and we didn't really start from scratch. When I joined the company, I was looking around, like I think Keynote, as Michael mentioned, there's a lot of opportunities, build by partnership, and we went in the mode of the partnership with Microsoft. Right? Microsoft already has a rich set of ecosystem of IoT platform. So we want to use that. There are certain areas of Dover needs that are more business specific, that are commonly applicable across all of our operating companies. We want to lay that in. And also another approach we took for the platform is we didn't really rebuild the platform from the ground up in a way that put all the features and then expect people to our teams to come in and just use us. The mechanism that we took is, as we are building the digital initiatives, the IoT initiatives, we took the reusable features from that and started putting it on the platform. So platform kind of evolved in a practical manner. So when we go from 1 to 2 to 3, third initiatives, fourth initiative, the time to build and time to go to market kind of reduced quite a bit. So just to give you an idea, we started from our first initiative to where we are now, we're about 40 to 50% faster using the platform approach. So which is why it's very critical for us. Bit of a geeky slide here. I know we're talking about business transformation, but I can't help myself being an economist, so I put this in. Here, I didn't want to go into the details, but at a high level, the key takeaway here is when we say IoT, it's not just cloud, it's not edge. There is also sensors, there is security. There's a plethora of things that need to come together. IoT is not as complex as people need it to be. At the same time, it's not as easy as some people think it to be. And there's multiple moving parts in here. If you're careful and if you really build the platform in a specific way, then it helps you to go quicker. So when I said IoT platform, there are things that we are using Microsoft IoT Cloud. We have a cloud layer, and then using Microsoft IoT Edge, we have an edge layer, and we also have a security layer. And all of this put together with some of the vendors that we work with for gateways and cellular, everything else comes together as a platform for us. I think I touched upon in the previous slide, but just to expand on it, when we say IoT, there is the multiple parts here. It's a bit more easy to see. There is edge, where your end products are, where you have ton of products in the field, and there's the data collection, and then doing that, the processing, edge and fog computing, and transporting the data securely to the cloud. And inside the cloud, you actually have to store it, process it, and then finally, the most important piece, you need to be able to provide insights, business insights and outcomes. So if you look at it, the slide goes from left to right. Really, the importance of doing any type of business model or even the IoT initiative starts with right from that. Because you want to start from outcomes. What is the problem that you're trying to solve for which customer, for what specific business outcome that you want to get, and what is the winning opportunity? So that's the approach we do. And starting from there, you keep going backwards to figure out how do you do it. And so the outcome-based solutions are pretty key to be successful and scalable. So a little bit about the IoT solutions. So far we talked about our journey and what Dover is and what Dover Disk is and why we brought it to the mix to help the company. And then some of the approach we took IT optimization and the security and obviously the key drivers that are helping us to be successful. All of this need to mean something, right? Otherwise, you'll get good and you for 3 to 6 months after you get your output. At the end of the day, we need to make money. So this is not a science experiment for us. This is actually a serious initiative within Dover. And we have proof points to show for it. These are some that I can share publicly. Obviously, there's more going on behind the scenes. But the momentum already taken, right? So the big key in all of this is it's great to see these outcomes, which I'll go a little bit deeper in a bit. but the more importantly is to show the company. It's also pretty infectious in a way that one company does an initiative that is successful, and it kind of goes to other companies. There's a we want to be part of that too, because your overall revenue is increasing. Although it takes time to go into a meaningful number, but the moment they see the opportunity, they want to have a piece of that. So that really helped us inside the door, part of our transformation. So some of the solutions I can share, it's the Mosaic is an advanced diagnostic technology to simply explain if you have a car these days are really computers are being right? So it's less about mechanical, it's more about sensors and computation. And it's going to go or only much more deeper in the computation sensor side. With around where is almost close to reality. So that is great. You buy a car with all these great sensors, and you get a nice experience with these awesome cars. But what happens if you get into you don't want to get into that? But it could happen. What happens if you get into collision? And now you gotta have the car to be put back on the road safely the way that you want, but you want to have it operational. So currently that's a big gap in the industry right now. The aftermarket collision calibration has been a decent enough gap that we have this product innovation here. So working with the third-party company, we have a complete end-to-end solution where you can calibrate the car back into the original manufacturer repair procedures and the standards that they set. So we are actually putting the car safely back on the road while making money out of it, obviously. But you get the point. And then the third eye is one of our product. It's a solution that we provide as part of environmental solution group. That is engineered products. The top right, if you guys remember, in the operating segment. Here, essentially, the software is making the waste management part to be smart. It's a huge boost for our customers, which are waste management companies, where they can monitor the pickup points, the trash pickup points. They can also look at the driver productivity, driver safety, which is a big deal in the commercial world, where you want to be store all the evidence that your driver didn't do anything wrong. If something happens, incident happens, and you can get sued. So, and fuel savings and plethora of other metrics we provide as part of the solution. And then door fueling solutions, I think it's been talked about in the previous presentations as well. And it's just getting started. And we want to provide a world-class experience for our customers in the retail fueling industry. And Microsoft has been helping a great deal in this solution, especially. So a few other stories. Hydro, one of our operating company, part of the process and pumps group. Here, Hydro provides chemical dispensers that gets used in the farming and hygienic as well as laundry and industrial kitchen, these areas. So our customers, which are chemical companies, want to get insights into their customers, which are industrial laundry, industrial kitchen, these areas. How to extract information to understand operational data as well as the chemical consumption, and also finally the critical alerts so that they can service better and they can help keep them up and running so they can provide better service to their customers while also analyzing information to provide a better cost structure. And OPW Silicon, it's a solution in Silicon. Here we provide a solution for the fleet managers in the retail fueling. Where you have fueling trucks, you will see that goes on to the gas stations to unload the fuel. And here, if you're a fleet manager, you can remotely monitor where you're feeding that, and you can find what product it is actually taking to which location. And they can also monitor the driver productivity and critical certainly, because you don't want to downtime. Each load means a lot of dollars for them, and while improving the operation. So, the partnerships, I can't say this enough in how critical this is as a partnership, because you can't do it all by yourself, and you need good partnerships along the way to be successful in a timely manner. And one example of what we're doing with Microsoft with the door fueling solutions in other areas as well, but just taking an example here, when we say partnership, people think, okay, we're just getting the cloud from Microsoft and we get some education. And if you have technical challenges, they'll come and help us. That's basic, and they do that very well. But beyond that, they help us in the co-building product, co-selling, co-marketing, co-launching. So they're there in every step of the way. And this aligns really well with Microsoft philosophy of moving away from just the product centric, just selling Windows to solution centric and helping customers be successful so they can be successful along the way too. But that's a great example that I can share here. With that, the presentation is concluded. Thank you very much.
So great background. Thank you so much for that and sharing. As you can see, with these different operating companies, they have an awful lot of experience in looking at business transformation in these companies. I'd like to ask you a couple of questions, if I may. The first one is, some of the people in the audience are looking at this transformation, and how do you go about figuring out which particular project to select? And you've actually done that. You've done that successfully. You see, for 5 different operating companies, you mentioned you have a handful of others that you're working on, not quite public yet. But how do you have 18 different operating companies and products within those companies? How do you go about, what are the key things that you look at in terms of selecting which ones to go work on first and then prioritize?
We don't have favorites, because I don't have favorites. They and corporate, everybody is the same for us. We like money, so we usually go for the money. So, but really, seriously, it's all about the revenue opportunity. So the revenue opportunity comes from different sources. It could be the product improvement, it could be the adjacent markets, it could be a package solution that we can provide. And that has been the primary challenge in the business transformation. Two big challenges. One is the culture change, and second thing is identification and value. But we really go for the value, the revenue aspect. And then there are times where we do look at as an early adopter. So maybe the revenue opportunity is not clear yet, but we want to be the disruptor because we're already industry leading in multiple areas that we all produce products. And we don't want to be behind following someone. We want to be the early entrance into the market. Last one, I would probably say not something that we would like to be there, but it's like we will be there. There's someone else following there and our competitor, and we have to make sure that we are there as well to make sure we're not lagging too behind. So those are the three primary: revenue and early entrant adoption, as well as the company.
Great. So hopefully you're all taking notes in terms of that. This is great learning and background in terms of how do you go and which one do you actually look at and select first. Also, so once you have these solutions, you talked about a number of different solutions that are actually out there. If you think of revenue obviously being very important, how do you really look at it and evaluate how successful you're being in terms of what are the critical factors to that success and really building the momentum in that digital revenue?
Yeah. So, we have these ideas, certainly, and with the people I mentioned, we have a digital group, we have operating companies, and obviously we have partners. Just because there is an idea that we have internally that we came up with, we don't want to pat our backs and say, let's just go do it. We want to find out what we are thinking aligns with what our customers are thinking, and there is a value to what we will be doing. So we develop pretty heavily on the voice of the customer service. So we do the VOC service, we collect information from multiple ways, whether it's a market service or straight up going to talk to the customers, and a combination of those. And we really use a data-driven approach. We get the data inside, and we have certain process before we go on to do it. So that is a very key to the success, because that's a starting point before you do anything. And if you don't do that right, that's the way it's going to be. You're going to find out after some time you have to watch your revenues not. So VOC is pretty critical for us. The second one I would probably say is what we've been talking all along, which is the business transformation, culture change, and business models. It's pretty hard because it's not that you can come up with and just throw something in the market. For example, you can say we're going to offer this as a service. That's great to hear, but then the market has to be ready for it. So just because we came up with a cool idea doesn't mean that it's it's going to change the market. We need to understand the market and slowly navigate it. So culture change and business transformation is that's within the company. Especially if someone is, if any other company is doing this on a first-time basis, it becomes very difficult.
So you heard a couple other things, critical things there in terms of voice of the customer, making sure you really understand the customer. I think one of your slides talked about making sure you understand that first in terms of that business outcome, but also the culture. And I think you saw the culture really throughout the presentations this morning in terms of that being such a critical piece, and then having some executive sponsorship, but also being able to really have that throughout the company.
That's correct.
Well, thank you again, and thanks for sharing. We really appreciate the partnership.
Senior IoT Technical Specialist, Microsoft, and Kevin Pilcher, Azure IoT Solution Architect, Microsoft.
Thank you for having us. We're thrilled to be here. My name is Kevin Pilcher. And I'm Chad Litch. We're both IoT Technical Specialists. Yeah, so we've been doing IoT in action for quite a bit of time already. Now this is year 2, right, Chad? And so when we first ran this session in Leipzig, Germany, we built first of all a connected refrigerator. Kind of cool, right? Pretty practical, especially in my house, kids. And so it was an exercise to show our ecosystem, our partners and our customers, how to use some of these Azure IoT services that we talk about with them. But, and it was a cool science experiment, but it was kind of a science experiment, wasn't it?
That's right, yeah. So last year, our partner Insight created a solution accelerator for safety notifications called Edison, which is available on GitHub. Our focus was to further develop our IoT products so that our partners can build out more solution accelerators and kind of advance what we're doing with IoT in the marketplace.
So let's take a quick watch of the video on Project Edison.
It's absolutely imperative to keep public spaces safe. BeSafe Technologies is a company that provides emergency preparedness plans to first responders, whether that be police, fire, EMS.
Alden is an urban school district. It covers 111 miles and has about 67,000 students that we serve. Safety is a priority.
A challenge a first responder might run into when managing information in time of crisis is being able to access building floor plans or any pertinent contact information.
There's really nothing standardized, a way to get information out to a police officer or firefighter.
Inside, we are a super aggregator. We've been in the IT industry for over 30 years. We've worked with BeSafe and other partners to create a system where we can share information. ActiveShield is a module with Insight's connected safety platform. What we've been able to do is take these traditional PDF floor plans and create a virtual digital twin of those. All of this is hosted and enabled on the Microsoft Azure Cloud platform. As a result of having a digital twin, first responders can safely share and collaborate in real time the information that they need to be able to help you. The Insight Connected Safety Platform allows us to interconnect all of these various different devices and IoT sensors and to create a single view of what's going on in real time.
With Insight, we were able to build a third-party solution accelerator called Project Edison. We all came together, and BeSafe's platform that existed for 20 years was just the other piece of this puzzle. Being able to leverage that platform with IoT and connected devices, there was a synergy there.
In a real-life situation, in case there's something happening in the hallway, what happened? The principal, all the police, or all the administration will be able to send out to all the classrooms in the school with the specific instruction, what you need to do step by step.
You're going to automatically see some cost advantage. It will allow us to move more in an expedient way, to know what we need to do as a district for safety and security of our students and staff. This is applicable to factories, retail, schools, campuses, cities.
ActiveShield IoT integrated devices is 100% the future of public safety in any space.
With Insight, we were able to build a third-party solution accelerator called Project Edison. We all came together, and BeSafe's platform with IoT and connected devices, there was a synergy there. In a real-life situation, in case there's something happening in the hallway, what happened? The principal, all the police, or all the administration will be able to send out to all the classrooms in the school with the specific instruction, what you need to do step by step.
This is applicable to factories, retail, schools, campuses, cities.
ActiveShield is
Insight, connected safety, and e-safe technologies help save lives based on the Microsoft Azure platform. I think it's going to be revolutionary in terms of how people respond to an emergency in a public location.
So you know what I found most exciting about that video is it started off with project medicine, and then Insight came and built a solution on top of that. And then we saw BSafe build the Active Shield solution on top of that and delivering it in 9 months or so, and even won reward for it. So it's really cool to see how our partners are innovating and they're building portfolios of repeatable solutions and platforms that our customers are using to enable their own digital transformation.
Yeah, so this year we're taking on science projects. We're actually going to show you real solutions. And here in just a bit, we'll have some of our partner architects come up and talk about what they've built. And but first, let's talk about the landscape.
Yeah, so middle last year, we commissioned a study called the ioT Signals Report, where we kind of polled our partners and our customers to understand a little bit more about what they were thinking when it came to IoT. You know, and one of the areas that we really dived into with them was reasons for IoT adoption. Why are they, going through, these projects to adopt and build IoT solutions? And the results were quite fascinating. So top of mind was operations optimization. And I think what you saw earlier with Mariner is a great example of that, where, they actually got to speed up, the factory machines, right? That were scanning these goals, right? And so reducing things like unplanned outages, optimizing your factory floor, just-in-time inventory tracking. Next up was employee productivity. We saw, and we're going to see solutions around that. Some of them are in the expo. Things like lone worker solutions, where our customers can send some of their workers to hazardous or remote locations by themselves and still ensure their safety and security, right? And then safety was another round of the top 3, right? And the BSafe solution here that you just saw in the video was a great example of that, right? But specific industries are adopting IoT for different reasons, right, Chad?
Yeah, so when we pivot and look at the specifics of IoT adopted by industry, and looking at these 4 industries specifically, the top 2 use cases for retail are really focused on the customer experience and kind of wrapping everything around the customer, bringing the right product to the right place at the right time. So they can actually go in the store and get what they want when they need it. They talked earlier today about the digital signage, and there's a Walgreens down the street where I can actually see everything that I wanted right on the actual door, which is pretty impressive. And then in regards to transportation, as you would expect, we have a lot of investments in fleet management, but there's also a focus on safety and security when it comes to transportation, which is pretty important. And then safety, once again, if we look at government, they're focused on making smarter intersections and providing better safety features for humans as they interact with streets and highways and things like that as well. Then healthcare is focused on making sure that they know where all the assets are. If we look at very expensive capital assets in the hospital system, like imagery scanners and defibrillators, where are they in the hospital? And when they have a patient that needs one, they'll know where to go get it.
But the report also revealed that there were some challenges when it came to IoT adoption. And top of those was complexity. And you're going to hear shortly how we have invested in that area through what we call IoT Plug and Play and IoT Central to kind of reduce the barriers of entry to IoT solutions, reduce that overall complexity, right? You also see here lack of budget, lack of staff. And when you couple that with, I have staff, but they don't have the requisite knowledge to build an IoT solution, okay? So that is really hampering IoT adoption as well. And you'll hear shortly how we're trying to address that, right? So I imagine some of these ring true for you. And if we were to deeper dive in terms of complexity, this is what a typical do-it-yourself IoT solution looks like. This one looks simple. Okay? They're usually way more complex when you dive in. And so,
oh, that is.
or even more than a week. And this now only in minutes.
Still with the IoT event in Chicago, Illinois. Very thirsty. And looking for a place to plug in the laptop. Hello.
Hey, how are you?
I'm doing good. How about yourself?
Good. I'm Dimas. Nice to meet you.
Idris. Nice to meet you. Yes, sir.
Idris. Enjoying it so far?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Good to know.
So are you from around here?
I'm sorry?
Are you from around here?
Yes, I'm from Chicago, yes.
Oh, okay.
I work for Sprint.
Oh, okay.
How about you?
I'm from around here too. Indiana, though.
Indiana. Okay.
Yes, yes. Yes, but I'm familiar with Chicago.
So what brings you here?
Oh, the IT event.
Yeah?
Yeah.
So what are you looking for? What are you looking for at the event?
Well, personally, I want to be able to package my products. I've had it for 5 years now. It's a musical compilation with one of Microsoft products, that's going to Africa, Brazil, and maybe Benin Republic, some of the places where they speak Yoruba language.
Mm-hmm.
So I just want to have my product packaged with that. I am a radio presenter. I do my own radio show. But besides that, the first thing I wanted to do is have this product here. I'll get you a copy of it. Packaged with that one specifically as a service.
So what is inside?
It's music.
Oh, music. Okay.
Yes. So I wanted it packaged with maybe a mobile device, stuff like that.
Okay.
Most especially in regions, where people have African origin, where people of African descent are.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But I came with a delegation of IvY Tech students.
Okay. So how it's going so far? Are you enjoying? Are you?
Well, I'm meeting with the keynote speaker at 2. I'll be talking to him, and then I will talk to him about seeing how we can get that into one of their products.
And you any countries that speak Spanish and Portuguese?
Yoruba. It's Yoruba language.
Yoruba?
Because there are people who've been transported back in the day due to the slave trade, and they still practice and speak Yoruba language and practice Yoruba culture and tradition back where they are. But I just want to expose more people to this.
Got it. Yeah, I'm a Brazilian. I speak Portuguese.
Oh, for real?
Yeah, I'm a Brazilian.
I work with Felicio Sandros, and we made a song together. It's called Sem Censura.
Okay.
And yeah, that one is on SoundCloud. It's not on this one, but it's on SoundCloud. So yeah.
Great. Glad to know that. And you have a QR code, smart.
Yes.
That's nice.
Yes, that's for my radio show. That was
right.
So what brought you here?
Well, I'm the boring part. I am the IoT sales for Sprint. So I work for IoT infrastructure. So I'm pretty much to hear and listen what's the new stuff, what people are doing, learn a little bit more. That's what I'm doing right now. And, there's a lot of good products, a lot of good solutions, and pretty much understand how things are going in that area, because now I'm working in telco, telecommunication environment. It's kind of a totally different market, and there's so much to learn. So that the idea for me here is to watch and learn a little bit.
That's cool.
That's what I do.
Wow. That's
So
nice.
I wish you best of luck on this. Idris.
Yes, Idris. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
In Brazil, you say Idris.
Yes. Yes,
English.
yes, that's how you say it.
Okay.
But hey, America, you have to Americanize everything.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So,
English.
yes, sir. Yes, sir. It's nice to meet you.
Same here. Best of luck. I will check it out as soon as I'm off the clock.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Can I keep it?
Yes, you can. Yes, you can.
Thank you.
That's why I brought it here.
Yeah, it has to ask, right? So one suggestion that I can give you, if you do a little incision here on the package.
Yes, I was gonna do that at the hotel.
No, just to show you that.
Okay.
Little incision here and put
And
your
put the
business
card
card
in
here.
there. That's what I'm gonna do.
So
I'm
people are
gonna
not gonna lose your card.
Yes, I'm gonna do that right now.
Because just a little incision, just enough to put your card in.
Yes, sir. I'm gonna do that right now. I was gonna do that at the hotel, but yeah.
I know, because I'm carrying only this.
Yes, sir.
So I'm afraid to lose it, so I put inside.
I'm gonna work on that right now.
No, it's a terrific approach because you already have the QR code.
Yes,
It's
sir.
amazing.
All right. Thank you.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you very much. So, how long have you been in the United States?
5 years.
5 years.
Yeah.
Me, 13.
13?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, it's supposed to be 6 months here for a project. I used to live in Brussels, in Belgium.
Oh, wow.
For 15 years.
Whoa.
And it's supposed to be like 6 months and then go back and forth, and I'm here for 6 years now, 5-6 years.
Oh, wow.
Looking for someone?
Huh?
Looking for someone?
Oh, shit, man. He's coding and stuff. It's like, God damn.
Yeah, I knew that you were going to go down south. Before you go to Western Europe, otherwise when the doors open, everybody's coming.
Yeah. Oh, I know.
That's why I just left.
Oh, I don't like it. It's like, yeah.
So how far is about the content? It's very different content, right?
Oh, yeah. No, it's good. You know, the one thing that I wanted to ask you about is whenever we're talking about this year being on the edge.
Yes.
I mean, that's no different from what we're trying to do with ours, is it, right? In terms of having a note versus what they're saying.
Yeah, but it's two different things, right?
Well, yeah.
We do very level data analysis. In Azure is an application. So it's like a Ferrari against a state. Because people put on the edge, they put a lot of heavy lifting stuff on it. And we are just too close by. Like imagine you have a shop and people have edges to get in. So I can put a server close to your soccer player or football player, stadium, and just load about everybody that bought the ticket. So instead you go to the cell phone, check in, go to the cloud, go to the Amazon server, verify, go back. I have the network, so I collect the data and you authorize it me
the edge point,
and do this app and go back. And I can do this on my tower level or niche level. If everybody in Chicago decides to have a node, you can get 6, 7 top companies and hey, finance node. So they like the server, but not in a high-end application that we have. It's another play. So what we are working to do with Amazon, we can put a little instance, very small instance, 100
right.
For those possibilities. Someone wanna just double check parking, you have a parking ticket and you have a cell phone module to verify the parking, and you have a range 1 to 60,000 codes. I can load the 60,000 codes.
Right.
So I didn't need to go up.
Why go? Well, yeah, it's all about the speed.
Yes, exactly.
Putting it here.
So,
I mean, why have to go through 3 points? You can go to 1 and go right back up. Yeah. I gotta get some. Look, I'll be right back.
Get it right.
Just getting my business cards together, putting it all in one so that it's easily they don't get lost. Still at the ioT event in Chicago. We've had the keynote speaker, Michael Grubb, so this is name now. And I'm going to be using him too at some point in time. So it's been an amazing one so far. And there's still lots of presentation to be given. So stick around and enjoy.
Okay, all right.
Hello.